Hi. I don't know if you can tell, I am a Nana fanatic. I'm not in my Nana room with my entire Nana shrine because the lighting is so good right here, like, I have to take advantage. Next video will be by the shrine. I would love to make this page dedicated to Nana related videos. I'd love to dive deep into the analyses of each character, and I'd love to talk about the predictions that people and myself have about the ending of Nana, considering it's not finished yet. I feel like to do all that, I have to start this page with this video that goes into explaining why I have such a deep connection to the Nana anime and manga. And I feel like the best way to do that is to tell you guys my life story in a way. I do struggle with CPTSD. When I watched Nana for the first time, I fell in love with this anime, with the characters, with the analyses of each character. Something about this just really, really resonates with me. In the future videos, when I tell you guys, my favorite characters and why, and going into the analyses of those characters, if you don't know background of me, some people might think, why on earth do you like that character? Why on earth do you resonate with that character? Like you shouldn't want to resonate with that character, but I do. Um, and so I feel like this is the best way to start the channel. Okay, let's start this now because I really don't want it to be an hour long, but it is a life story. But I feel like by the end you can understand why Hachi is who I resonate with so much. But I will go into detail in another video, breaking down each character and what traits of that character resonates with me and why, and going into detail about that because I find that very, very fun. So my life actually wasn't that bad for a while until I was maybe around 6 years old. I remember my early childhood just having a lot of fun with my mom. She would be a stay-at-home mom, and she'd also take care of kids during the day, like kind of have her own daycare situation going on. So I was always around a lot of kids. I had my younger brother, and everything was just nice. I do remember being very shy around my dad for the most part because he was always working. I remember being so shy that there were days where I heard my dad still home when I got up and I would just pretend to be sleeping until he left because I was too shy to even say hi. I don't remember too much about my dad during those first few years of my life. But I do remember one, it sticks out so much and it still makes me really sad. And I feel like it was a stepping stone for how I was going to be treated for the rest of my life by him. And it really shows his core. When I was probably 5 or 6, he picked me up from dance class and we were driving back home. And I remember saying something to him. I don't remember exactly what, but I asked him a question and he just didn't answer me. There was no music playing or anything. So I thought, okay, maybe he just didn't hear me. Let me ask him again. And I asked him and he still completely ignored me. And in that moment, I thought, wow, like in that moment, I honestly thought that I wasn't real. I remember thinking, why didn't my dad answer me? I know he heard me, unless maybe I'm not real, maybe I'm dead, maybe he can't hear me because of that. And I just feel like it really sums up how I felt and how I honestly still feel related to him. But anyway, up until I was around 6, everything seemed kind of fine. And then one morning, it all just changed. My parents got divorced, and it was a really, really disgusting, nasty divorce. I remember my dad calling my mom horrible, horrible names, words that I didn't even know were words until he said them. And I remember one in particular, the way he was saying it, I knew it was wrong. And I remember this was the day it all happened. I remember running into their room and just crying on the bed because I knew something was wrong. My mom came in the room and she started packing her stuff. And I said, Mom, what's a skank? Because I heard him calling her that. And I didn't know what that was, but I knew it was wrong. And, she just said, don't worry about it. I remember when she started packing her stuff, I started packing my stuff because I thought, well, I'm not staying. Like, I need to go with my mom. In my head, I thought, my dad is the mean one right now because he's calling her a ton of mean, bad names, and my mom is crying. And so I need to go with my mom. And at the time, my brother was only like 3, so I don't even think he remembers any of this. Good. Well, when I was packing my stuff too, I wasn't really packing. I was just throwing things on top of her stuff, and I didn't really bring much of anything except for pictures of us. My dad tried to force me to stay, and I was just really not having it, and I'm pretty sure I ended up going with my mom. And that was how my parents got divorced. And the rest of my childhood, it was going to be nasty. Custody battles, my dad using us as pawns, literally as pawns. My dad ended up getting full custody of us, but it wasn't because he cared. It was really just because he wanted to hurt my mom. He knew how much we meant to my mom, and he wanted to do anything in his power to take that away from her. And I'm sure you're probably wondering, like, how does a dad get custody? Because I know it's hard for dads to get custody. My mom ended up becoming a pretty bad alcoholic, and that's not to shame her at all. I'm someone who completely 100% understands that alcoholism is a disease. It runs in my family. Once you start, it's really hard to stop, especially if you have a lot of trauma. And my parents were also really young parents. My mom gave birth to me when she was only 20 years old. As you're gonna be able to tell, and I'm sure you can already tell, my dad is not a good person. Didn't even allow her to have a job. So that right off the bat is financial abuse. So I can understand the signs that lead to someone to becoming an alcoholic if they are being abused in their early adulthood by their husband that's supposed to love them. I'm not even kidding. Like a month or two later, my dad brought home a new girlfriend after that whole divorce. I do not think they were even officially divorced yet. I even remember my mom leaving the house to go to her job the literal day my dad brought this new woman home. When he brought this new woman home, I honestly immediately didn't like her. I was only 6 or 7 at this time. Maybe they got divorced when I was 7, but you also have to understand, like, I'm young. I don't remember ages like that because of the trauma that I'm going to be experiencing for the next 10 years of my life. I immediately didn't like this woman, and maybe it's because I was young and my dad just broke up with my mom, and I thought in my head, this is wrong. I want my parents to be together. But also, there was just really something sinister about this woman. I don't know what it was. I feel like kids know things though. And that's why if I ever had a child, which I really don't think I will after experiencing what I've experienced in my life, if I ever had a child and me and the child's dad ended up divorcing or breaking up, I would listen to my child if I ended up eventually bringing someone around, which wouldn't be for a really long time. If they told me, hey, mom, I really don't like this person, I would literally never see that person again because I care about my children more than anyone. I care about children that I don't even have right now more than anyone. But that's the difference between me and my soulless father. He only cares about the women he's with, and he will do anything to make them happy, even if it means sacrificing his own children. So I didn't tell him that I didn't like her at first because I just knew from a young age that my dad doesn't listen to me. And I also even remember thinking, like, I'm so little, like, it doesn't really matter what I think about her. But the one night, he decided to ask me how I feel about her. And I think this was because he was gonna take the next step in, like, making it more official, I think, which again was so soon after my mom and dad split. I'm not even kidding, like 2 months. So this night, my older sister, who I didn't even know existed till I was 5, because my dad is a horrible dad, she was there. She might have been 12 at the time. My dad asked me how I felt about this person, and I said nothing. I started to cry because I started not knowing what to do. Like, do I say I like her and lie? Or do I tell him the truth? My sister figured that out before my own dad figured that out, because he has no soul. So my sister read the room and she told my dad, I think she's afraid that she's gonna be her new mom. Which, yeah, technically, but also I just really didn't like her. And so my dad was like, you know, trying to say that that wasn't gonna happen, and maybe I just need to spend more time with her. So he ended up telling this woman that I didn't like her. And so she took me out to the mall, and remember, I'm like 7 at this time, and got me anything I wanted. Food, ice cream, clothing, just anything I wanted. When you do that to a 7-year-old, they're gonna like whoever that is. So that was the first time I was manipulated by her, because she had to have known, oh, if I just take her to the mall and give her what she wants, then I can get what I want. So a couple weeks later, she moved in with my soon-to-be stepsister. And I have nothing bad to say about my stepsister. And to this day, I haven't seen my stepsister in I don't even know how long. I still say my sister. I can't help that. I probably always will do that. I feel like no matter how far apart I am from any of my siblings, my love for them will never end. I love them so much. I wish there wasn't manipulation at play where they maybe don't realize I love them or care about them, but I really, really do. I always will, I always have, and I will always be there for them if they need. It could be 20 years from now. If they need me, they can always come to me, and I hope that if they're watching this, instead of taking it as an attack, I am not ever attacking my siblings. I'm simply just telling the truth about what happened between me and my stepmom and my dad. I never wanted to come off as an attack. It's just the truth. And if people don't want the truth about them out there, they should have really, really thought about that before damaging a child for 10 years. In my dad's case, way longer than 10 years, but you get what I mean. So yeah, I lived with my stepmom and my stepsister and my dad and my brother. And within 6 months of my dad bringing this woman home, he proposed to her. And she got pregnant with my brother. And here comes the next 10 years of my life that I wish wasn't my life. We moved really far away from my hometown. There were custody battles. At first, my mom and dad had joint custody, so we spent half our time with my dad, half our time with my mom. But because he moved so far away, our school district was gonna be different. And the only way, for some reason, the judge made it so the only way we would continue having joint custody is if my mom moved within 20 miles of our new school, maybe 20 minutes, or it would go down to visitation. And she had a deadline, and she unfortunately missed that deadline to move. And so we only got to see my mom every other weekend. I do also want to make a point that when my stepmom did take me to the mall to buy me all those things to make me like her, she told me, I will never take your mom's place. So just keep that in mind. Me and my mom had a rocky relationship for the rest of this time due to a lot of things. Specifically, when you're a child to a narcissist, the forms of manipulation that happen, it's like brainwashing. You get brainwashed. I remember learning early on to tell my dad lies to make him feel good, that my feelings don't matter, that if I wanted love and attention, I had to lie. And unfortunately, my stepmom was the same exact way. I don't know how, because I feel like usually this doesn't happen, two narcissists being together, but that's what happened. Yeah. She was a full-blown, marks off every narcissistic tendency you could possibly have. She would play mind games so badly. All throughout my life, she would withhold love from me if I didn't give her what she wanted. And I knew that if I lied to her and I'd say, I wish you were my mom instead, that she would love me more. I always have to remind myself that I was only a child and I did what I had to do to get the necessary things a child needs. And even though I'm sure that hurt my mom so much, at least I'm able to recognize that those were lies I told so I could get the love I needed, and I would never do that now. So let me tell you guys a few things that have happened that really just solidify why I'm so damaged to this day. The first one being when my half-brother was born, we moved into our new house, and at this time I was maybe 9. I remember my stepmom saying how it stinks so bad in the living room and that it must be me. So I had to go take a shower. Mind you, we took showers every day. I took a shower, I came back downstairs. They still said that I stank because they said the room didn't stop stinking, so it still must be you. You must not be bathing properly. Your mom didn't teach you how to bathe properly, so let me go teach you how to bathe properly. So my stepmom came upstairs to the bathroom with me to teach me how to bathe properly. And at this moment, I thought to myself, let me pretend that I don't know how to wash. That way, when she teaches me, she'll think that she did a good job and she'll love me more. Meanwhile, while she was teaching me how to wash, I knew how to do that. And then after we were done, we went downstairs, the room still stank because it turns out my brother pooped his pants because he was only like 5 months old. So all that humiliation and having to bathe multiple times, I think I probably showered 3 total times that night, just turned out to be a stinky diaper. Another thing my stepmom would do often is snoop through my things, and there was no sense of privacy at all. Even coming down to the bathroom, we would be told we're in there too long. We'd only be able to take 5-minute showers. There was zero privacy, zero, in our home. I had a diary for a little bit because I just thought that like that was something I could do. She would read my diary and I would get in trouble for everything I'd say in there. I learned to lie in my journal. I would think, well, if she's gonna read my journal, I'll just lie and say good things. That way she loves me. I'll say bad things about my mom because I know that makes them like me. I remember writing my crush's name in my journal. Mind you, it's a crush. Every person has a crush when they're 10. When I did that, I was literally called a whore by my stepmom and my dad. I was told that I can't have crushes. I was told how much of a whore I am and that I sleep around with the whole town when I was 10. So not only did I learn to not tell the truth in my own journal, which really damaged me to this day, but also if I have a crush on anyone, I'm a whore. So that also really damaged me to this day. And even though she read my journal, complete invasion of privacy, she went on to buy me a password journal for my one birthday, which is a journal that opens to your own voice. And I remember she literally snooped at the door listening for what I said to open my journal so that way she could get into my journal and read it. She would also snoop through my drawers. When I was at school, she would just go in our rooms and just snoop through all of our things. And we'd clean the house. That's what those were our chores to clean the whole house. I don't really know what she did at all besides snoop through our things and yell at us. This might be a little TMI, but I really like to add this in because this is just like further narcissistic abuse. When I started getting discharged, because all women get discharged, so I still find this so weird because she's a woman. When I got discharged, I didn't think anything of it because I learned in school that that's normal, natural. I didn't think that there was a reason for me to hide it or anything, but she would snoop through our dirty clothing because she would do the laundry. She would snoop through every article of clothing, and she saw that there was discharge in my underwear, and she literally yelled at me and said that I was peeing my pants. And so from then on, hid my underwear and I brought it to my mom's house to wash it because that's something I can't control. And I was accused of peeing my pants. I wasn't allowed to wear bras. I wasn't allowed to shave. And those things were because they thought that if I shaved and wore bras, that meant I was a whore trying to get boys' attention. In reality, a lot of this, like, obviously, shaving and wearing bras is like a natural part of girlhood. And the main reason I wanted that was to not be embarrassed in school, but also the fitting in of it all. I was raised to be an outsider. I didn't fit in with anyone because I wasn't allowed to do normal things. I wasn't allowed to have crushes. I wasn't allowed to shave. I wasn't allowed to wear bras. I wasn't allowed to hang out with friends almost ever. They put they printed out our punishments and put it on the fridge. And when my friends came over, they saw that. Like, do you know how embarrassing that is? And then I would just lie to my friends and be like, oh, that's just old. They don't actually do that. No, they do. Because I remember my friend going up and saying, what is this? This is like the army. Also, fun fact, how I said we had to clean the whole house. Like, our chores were basically the entire house split up between the four of us, kind of. Part of my job was to mop the kitchen floor when I was 9. Just think of a 9-year-old. I was never really taught. They didn't really teach us anything. They just assumed that we had to know how to do it, and when we did it wrong, we would be told how stupid we are, and they would berate us. So I was mopping the floor when I was 9. I was using Mop and Glow. Apparently, Mop and Glow adds a really like thick layer onto the floor if you use it over and over again. And that was my fault. So my punishment was mixing ammonia and bleach together, which is toxic, and cleaning the floor, no face mask, When I tried opening a window because it was making me not be able to breathe, my dad slammed the window down and said, "No, like this is your punishment. You have to clean the floor with this and you can't have fresh air." Also, while I'm talking about these things, if someone asks, "Why didn't you tell your mom?" I'm so glad that you never had to go through what I went through to ask questions like that. Because if it was just so simple to just tell your mom or tell an adult, kids wouldn't be getting abused every single day. The things that they would do is brainwashing, manipulation, making you feel like you truly do deserve the things you're getting, making you feel like if you do tell someone, you're going to get in even more trouble. Do you know how many times I would tell them things like, if you did that, I would tell someone, and they said, if you do, we're gonna beat you so bad that you wake up in the hospital. I had to witness my siblings getting beat with belts. And when I would cry for them, I would be threatened. I would sit there, and while I hear their screams, I started to cry. And I would be then told, keep it up and you're next. And these belt beatings, people would love to try to justify it. I personally think that is never okay. It is always abuse, it is always wrong. But for the people out there who might think, oh, they probably deserved it, yeah, 8-year-olds deserve beatings with belts. Uh, one of my siblings was literally beat with a belt because they forgot to bring their school books home. I remember having to teach my siblings and tell them, if you cry right when they hit you, they'll stop sooner because they'll see that it's hurting. But if you don't cry, they're gonna hit you harder. My dad also knowingly got into a relationship with this woman, knowing that she would beat her daughter. Because later on, when they got divorced, he would say things, saying how she would beat her daughter before they were together. And I was just thinking, like, why are you even telling me this? Because you knew this beforehand and you still let her in our house and destroy our lives. She had a very jealous tendency with between me and my mom. She would teach me to not have any personality. I would come home with new clothes from my mom and she would just tell me how ugly they are. And so I would never wear it because for some reason I just really valued her opinion of me. And so if she didn't like something, I wouldn't wear it. She would throw out all of the things my mom got me one night just because she just started going off like, you know what? I'm gonna take everything your mom got you and throw it out. And she did. My mom would shop for me at Justice for Girls. For girls! Justice for girls! And I'd come home wearing it, and it was like lacy tank tops. I'm sure you guys know what they are. I'm gonna insert a picture. For girls, okay? I think, 11. I came home wearing it thinking nothing was wrong. And my stepmom just went on this whole thing about how I'm a whore and those clothes I shouldn't be wearing. I'm too young. But then she went on to buy them for for her own daughter. And then when she bought them for her daughter, she bought them for me. And so I thought, that's so weird. I guess it's only okay to wear if she buys it for me. Another thing she would do related to my mom, we'd go to my mom's house, we'd come home, we would be interrogated at the door. They would ask us what we did that weekend, and it wasn't a whole like, oh, what'd you guys do? I want to know, like, if you guys had any fun. No, they asked us this question to interrogate us so we can get in trouble for something. We weren't allowed to see my cousin for years because she had head lice the one time and gave it to us. Kids get head lice. Especially back in that day, there were so many head lice outbreaks. If you're around my age, you probably remember normal kid things. They said that my cousin was so dirty for it and she's just disgusting. Honestly, it's just straight up racist. Like now I can see like they were just racist because she is half black and her hair is she has black hair. And they just assumed she had lice because of that. And because we weren't allowed to see my cousin, we would be interrogated at the door because they would want to make sure we didn't see my cousin. My cousin, who's 5 days apart from me, who we are best friends, we grew up together, and I wasn't allowed to see her for years. And eventually we just started seeing her anyway, and I would just lie. I would lie regardless. Like, eventually, when I started realizing that when we came home, it was an interrogation and they actually didn't want us to have fun over the weekend, I would just end up lying and say, man, we did nothing, nothing really, just to avoid getting in trouble. Got to a point where I developed severe anxiety related to coming home from my mom's house. And I didn't know it was anxiety at the time because what do you know? They're anti mental health. My stepsister was diagnosed with ADHD when she was like 7, and they, instead of getting her on the right things to help that, they would threaten to put her on medication if she was showing signs of ADHD. And I'm sure a ton of things happened between there, but I'm just sticking to the ones that I remember most vividly. Because with narcissistic abuse, it's honestly like an everyday thing. But sometimes things are worse. When I was 14, I started high school. I started becoming that teenager that hates everything, but I actually had a reason. This is also when I started really realizing how much I hate my life, how much I hated my stepmom and my dad. I remember fantasizing being 18 and leaving and going far away and never ever coming back. Like, ever since I was 14, I knew that I was never going to have a relationship with my parents ever again once I turned 18. But things took a little bit of a turn later on before I graduated. This was when I had a crush, and I've had crushes for a while, but things were a little different with this crush. I thought, like, I actually really, really like this person a lot. And it got me a little scared because I thought, I'm gonna have to have him meet my parents. And they're probably somehow gonna find something wrong with him. And I can't have that happen. So for a while, I kind of lied to him and said, like, oh, you can't come over because we're getting a new couch or something like that. Just really stalling him meeting them because I thought, like, once they meet him, like, I doubt I'm ever going to be able to see him again. And it wasn't that anything was wrong with him, it's just I knew how they were. I knew that they didn't want me happy, especially my stepmom. I knew she wanted me miserable. I eventually brought him over and they met him and they didn't like him. What do you know? They found some reason to not like him. I'm pretty sure it was for two reasons. One, he isn't white. And two, later on, my stepmom went on to date someone who literally was friends with this boy because of how close in age they are. So it really made me, it really reinforced that jealousy part that I'm pretty sure was going on there, which is really sick because we were young. This boy, by the way, that I brought home is my fiance today. So I don't want anyone thinking like, oh, they were probably doing it for your own good. They weren't, because this is actually one of the best men I've ever had the amazing opportunity of meeting. He's the only man I trust. Like, yes, we both did a lot of growth within that time and we were a lot different in high school, but he wasn't a monster like my parents wanted to make it seem. They met him, they decided to not like him, and because they wanted me miserable. And so that was the first time where I really thought like, okay, I'm gonna have to continue seeing him behind their back because I'm really certain I really like this person, and I'm just gonna have to be rebellious. So I kept seeing him. This is when things got really bad because I ended up also being a rebellious teenager, but the things that were happening were still abuse. I ended up sneaking him into my house one day, which is obviously wrong. I recognize that. However, the things that happened after that, abuse. Always will be. When I did sneak him into my house, we were literally just talking with an occasional kiss. But because I wasn't allowed to see him, I snuck him in because I thought that how else am I supposed to talk to him? We truly weren't doing anything besides talking. Well, I'm an idiot because I was 14. My parents ended up coming home earlier than I expected. They caught him in our house. He left. I was beat. It's not funny. I was beaten. I got a phone book thrown at my head by my stepmom, and she punched me repeatedly in the head. And for some reason, she'll always say that that didn't happen, but I know it happened because I saw it and I felt it. Um, and then after that, they assumed we had sex, and we didn't, but they said that they smelled sex and alcohol. I can count on this hand how many times I've drank in my 26 years of living, and that was not one of those days. So, guess what? So, my stepmom said, we are going to take you to the gynecologist to get a virginity test. And at the time, I thought, okay, because I know that I'm not lying. So, yes, I want to prove to you I'm not lying. Okay, take me then. I've never been to a gynecologist before that. And I also didn't know at the time that virginity testing is illegal in many countries and highly unethical. And no gynecologist should do this. They should refuse, and they should also probably call CPS if someone comes in with their daughter or stepdaughter demanding for that. That's sexual abuse. You can't check virginity. There's no way of testing that because the only thing that they can assume is a way of checking is a non-broken hymen. You can be born with a broken hymen. You can be born with no hymen at all. You could break your hymen riding a horse or jumping too hard. There's many ways to break a hymen other than sex. And the doctor should have told my stepmom that, but instead, we went to the gynecologist. He was an old man, and this is why I refuse to ever go to a man gynecologist again. I don't care in the comments if you want to tell me how great yours is, that's great. But the trauma I have, the repeated trauma I have by going to this old man, I can never do it again. We went there, they asked what we're there for. She said we're here to check to see if she's a virgin, and he did it. And the way he did it was putting his fingers up there to check if my hymen was broken or not. It wasn't broken, but if it was, I'm telling you, it wouldn't mean I'm not a virgin. You can't check it. That's why him doing that is so wrong. He broke my hymen, by the way, by putting his fingers up there because I remember going to the bathroom after and there was a lot of blood. So, severe trauma that happened that day. And also, there was a nurse in there and she didn't care at all. And then a year or two later, I can't remember because this was when things just got really bad and I have so much trauma. A year or two later, they took me back to the gynecologist so I can get on birth control. And I distinctly remember that time looking up if I needed a pap smear at that age and it said you don't need one until you're 21. When you see that like medieval object they use for a pap smear, you think, oh my God, I don't want that. And so I learned, okay, I can be 21. So I said to myself, I'm going to stand up for myself at the gynecologist when I go. I'm going to tell them I do not want a pap smear until I'm 21. So we get there, and I told the guy, I don't want a pap smear. I don't need one till I'm 21, so I don't want one. He said, okay, we won't do it. He did it. He gave me one anyway. And this is the first time I'm ever going to talk about this specific thing. I for a while kept this a secret because I was honestly embarrassed. But I think to move forward, I want to be 100% open and honest. So they did an STD test during that time, and it came back positive for gonorrhea. Now, this second time, I was sexually active when I was around 15 or 16, maybe 16. I was sexually active at this time. So when it came back positive, at first I thought, that's so weird because I have zero symptoms, zero. And I know that some people don't have symptoms, but I've heard more times than not having symptoms with gonorrhea and chlamydia versus not having symptoms. But it came back positive, and I had to believe it because why would it be wrong? And I thought, okay, that's weird. At the time, me and my boyfriend weren't actually together. We kind of split up for a while, but we were still like talking every day and stuff like that. You know, stupid high school stuff. He's the only one that I was ever sexual with. And so obviously I told him. He told the other person that he was active with as well. And for some reason, out of the three, I was the only one that had gonorrhea. And I didn't know this until later on, until way after the fact, years later, because I was always just so embarrassed about it all. I didn't want to talk about it to like anyone. But I remember getting tested multiple times, year after year after that, by myself on my own. And I was always negative after that. My boyfriend at the time, the only person I was ever sexual with, never had gonorrhea. Never. And then the other person he was with never had it either. So I feel like we can all just put two and two together. That was a false positive. For some reason, the universe decided to burden me with a false positive STD test. So I was humiliated by my family and basically the entire school. Because my stepmom thought it would be a great idea to befriend people in my high school, tell them my sexual health, and then, of course, the entire school knew about it. She would tell my siblings who have no business knowing my sexual health so that they can look at me and think how disgusting I am, all for it to be a false positive. And I will say that alone was the hardest time I've ever went through in my life because that was when I felt like I had absolutely no one. No one. I stopped caring about myself. I stopped caring about others. I became a shell of a human being. I became a terrible person. I didn't care about anyone or anything. I completely just gave in to what I thought my life was just going to be for the rest of my life. I really thought that this is all that life is. I remember going on the bus in the morning and just thinking, if this is all that life is, I don't want to be a part of it anymore. I remember starting to think terrible things. And even though my stepmom is literally the reason why I was thinking those things, I didn't know who else to go to about my feelings. And so I had no choice but to go to the person who was making me feel that way to begin with. And so the one night She was interrogating me, asking me what's wrong because she loved to do that. She would just go into our rooms and just say, "What's wrong?" And if we said nothing, she would keep asking us what's wrong until we just had to lie. But at this time, there actually was something wrong. I decided to open up to her about how I was feeling, and I told her I don't want to be here anymore. And I will always remember she looked me dead in the face. She looked me dead in the face and said, "Then kill yourself, Cassie," and walked away. And that's why when I saw that she went to a suicide prevention walk, I just thought, wow. Like, is that just supposed to be a ha ha? I'm going here to make fun of everyone that committed suicide or what? Because someone like her doesn't deserve to go to those walks. Because that could have been me. When she said that, it kind of opened my mind up though, and I thought, you know what? I'm gonna treat my life like a game. And since she told me to kill myself, I'm going to make a point to never do that because I want to win. And so that was kind of the beginning of the end. At this point, I caused my stepmom and dad to have so many fights. And people will say, like, you're a kid, you're a kid, kids aren't the reason for divorce. The last day they were together before my stepmom and him broke up, my dad looked me dead in the face and said, "Thanks, Cassie." You know, maybe I'm not the reason they got divorced, but they sure did blame it on me. They split up when I was a senior in high school. I also forgot one detail. I have left out my dad a lot in this story. That's because he was working a lot. He condoned the abuse. He knew it was happening. There was one time where I was finally open and honest about my feelings towards my stepmom with him when I was around 16, and I told him like why I hate her, and he sided with me until she packed up all of her things and threatened to leave, and then he immediately switched and blamed me for it all and yelled at me. He also would always call me a whore, a slut, say I sleep around with the whole town, always say that I'm gonna end up pregnant. He was just projecting, I believe. They were both projecting their own weird issues onto me. There was also a moment where I was hiding an iPod Touch because that's how I talked to people. My mom got it for me and I hid it because if I didn't have that, I don't even know the type of person I'd be today because I wasn't allowed any access to the internet or any form of communication to people besides going to school. And if I didn't have that iPod Touch, I really don't know who I'd be today because that was my way of communicating and being a human. But they ended up finding it one night, and I knew that they were going to find things that they weren't going to like on it. And so I told them, "Hey, I will give you the code tomorrow. Like, you can keep the phone all night. I'll give you the code in the morning before school starts because I know you're not going to like what's on there. And I just want to be able to sleep." It was 3 in the morning. And I said that. And I feel like that's a fine thing to say. But they just weren't having it. They wanted the code now. And I knew if they got the code, they were going to wake me up at 4 in the morning and probably beat me. And I just wanted to get sleep to go to school. And so I didn't budge. I thought to myself, like, no, this is the one time, like, I can't budge because I know I'm going to get in trouble and I cannot have this right now. It needs to be while I'm at school. And so I didn't budge. My dad literally picked up a fire extinguisher and was about to throw it at me, was about to beat me with it. And I was screaming at the top of my lungs for help, saying, like, please, like, I even looked at my stepsister at the time because we shared a room and I said, call the cops, please. Like, she didn't do anything and I don't blame her for that because who knows what would have happened to her. All those times I cried for them and I would just be told I would be the next one, you know? There's just a little bit of what my dad did, but he condoned the abuse that I experienced for over 10 years. So he's not innocent in this at all. He always sided with the woman in his life, never his children. So they ended up getting divorced, and I became the mother. I had to cook. I had to somehow do school and work at the same time. I did everything. Everything. But I was also finally allowed some freedom back. It kind of did a full 180. It went from being controlled in every aspect to my dad truly not giving a fuck about what we did at all because he worked all the time. He worked nights, so it was easy for me to just do literally like I'm surprised that I didn't act out because of the 180 that happened. I had to cook, I had to clean, I had to make sure my brother was doing what he needed to do for school. I needed to work. I needed to do school myself. I needed to finally be able to hang out with my friends for the first time ever. And then I also had a trauma bond with my stepmom. You would think as soon as she left, I would never see her again, but I had a trauma bond. As much as I hated her, I felt like I was nothing without her. I felt like I had to keep talking to her. I had to keep seeing her. She also left with my half brother and my stepsister, and I still wanted to see them. I loved them. I still love them. But unfortunately, despite me coming over almost every day, I was told almost every day that I didn't care about them and I didn't love them. I can understand if my siblings believed that because of how often it was told to them. So I will never blame them for how they feel. I was also a teenager at the time. I didn't know what to do. I was told almost every day by my stepmom that I don't care about them, that I don't love them. And I would say, I come over almost every day. And she said, yeah, but you also hang out with friends though. It put me in a really hard situation. And she would still fight with me all the time about everything. And then at the same time, my dad would tell me, like, don't let her inside. If she comes inside, tell her that you're gonna call the cops. And so I did, and it didn't work. And then I would get screamed at, and it was really hard on me being only 17. There was also a time where, I was starting to get closer with my mom. And again, my stepmom always had that jealousy situation with my mom. And I was in the band at school, and there's this thing where before the first football game of the season, you go down, meet the members of the band and the football team and the cheerleading and blah, blah, blah. And since it was my senior year of doing this, we were going to have this special moment where our parents are supposed to walk us down and have this sentimental thing. And I have messages to prove, which I'm so happy because it's like, oh my God, finally being able to know that this woman can never hurt me and I just have all the control and power. It makes me so happy. I have text proof of the gaslighting she would do because at this time I was trying to decide if I wanted my mom to walk me or my stepmom. I always wanted my mom. But I knew if I had my mom walk me, my stepmom would be upset. If I had my stepmom walk me, my mom would be upset. So I was really not knowing what to do. And I was messaging my stepmom explaining this, saying, I don't know what to do. I lied and said that I really want her to because I knew that it would make her love me. I said, I really want you to, but I know my mom's gonna be really sad if I don't, and I also don't really want to deal with any of this drama. And she said, don't worry, like just choose what you need to, and I won't be mad or upset. Like I'll understand. And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna choose my mom, but that doesn't mean I don't want you to do it. It's just I really don't want the drama of it. She was like, okay, yeah, that's fine, whatever you need to do. Then the day came and I did that, and then she literally was messaging me saying how much of a horrible person I am and how ungrateful and selfish I am, and I only care about me and my brother and blah 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 just because of that. In that moment, I screenshot the messages of her saying she wouldn't care, and I said, you just said this and now you're completely flipping. Calling out the gaslighting. I'm so happy I did that at 17 years old. I didn't know what gaslighting was, but now I do, and looking back on it, I'm like, I'm so happy. I'm so proud of myself. It eventually just got down to like, she kept accusing me of not caring about my stepsister and half brother, not loving them, not caring about them, blah, blah. And it literally just got down to the point where like, I gave up. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to my stepsister. I'm sorry to my half brother. I'm really, really sorry for giving up. I have to remember that I was also just a kid and I did what I had to do to survive. And I would always love for them to understand one day, but I'll also understand if they don't. I remember getting into a really bad argument with my stepmom over that matter of me not caring. And the last thing she said to me, you could see in the messages that I was giving up because I was just saying, okay, 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 okay. The last thing she said to me was that she was going to tell them to be more grateful. I knew she was lying. She was telling them I didn't care about them or love them. And I just said, okay. And I never talked to her again. Fast forward to my graduation, she posted a picture of my graduation and she put this caption like, she has me blocked, but I still want to wish her a happy graduation. And I'm sad that she didn't invite me because it was always me for the past 9.5 years. Me, me, me. I did everything for her. That's the only reason why she's graduating, basically. And then the comments were like, shame on that side of the family. Someone sent it to me. And I remember just thinking, ew, it's all about her. Always is, always has, always will be. At that moment, I decided to message her one last message, just telling her how I had to stop talking to her. And I'm sorry, it was necessary for my growth and that I'm doing really well, like better than ever. I thought it was a nice message, but looking back, I'm thinking like, ooh, like that probably really hit her in the heart because I'm basically telling her I'm better off without her. She never responded to that, which I'm fine with because there's nothing she could have said to make me ever talk to her again. For a while after, like years and years, she was always stalking my Instagram because I always saw her on my stories, even though I didn't follow her and she didn't follow me. She was always stalking me. And obviously, I blocked her. When I blocked her, then all of a sudden, more people started viewing my stuff, and it just got to a point where it's like, you know what? I'm probably never gonna be able to fully have her out of my life because she always wants that control. Um, and I kind of just have to let that go. And then as far as my dad, after they got divorced, for some reason, I thought, oh, everything's great now. Like, my dad's gonna be a good dad. For a while, he was an okay dad. I mean, he still made me do everything. He was a very neglectful dad. All he did was work. That's it. He was a deadbeat dad. I mean, he didn't even try to keep custody of my half brother. I feel really bad for my half brother for that. And I just hope that what my dad did to him, I hope he doesn't think that I'm okay with that. My dad went on to be a decent dad until he decided to get a new girlfriend in 2019. In 2019, he just randomly decided one day, like, yeah, I need a new girlfriend. There was this one woman he was starting to see, and I thought she was great. Like, she seemed so cool, but she wanted to take things slow, like a normal human being, right? He didn't like that, so he immediately disposed of her. He went on to the next. He went on to anyone that will immediately get into a relationship, which is a red flag. You can't, I honestly don't think you can be a good person if you're just gonna get right into a relationship and like move in within 2 weeks. Like, it's really hard for me to think like, yeah, they don't have ulterior motives at all. When I met this woman, I immediately had deja vu. I thought, oh yeah, this is my stepmom all over again. And I'm not gonna do it this time because I'm an adult. I was about to be 21, and I thought to myself, you know what? Like, maybe maybe this is my CPTSD talking. Maybe I'm just nervous. Maybe she's a great person. But something's telling me that's not true. And I just can't, first, I don't know why, but I don't like this woman. And I remember thinking that way when I was 7, when my dad brought this my stepmom home, who is my abuser. And because I felt the same way with this woman, I thought, I'm not gonna stick around and find out. I'm really not. I'm just not. I went on vacation for my 21st birthday. They started seeing each other, and within 3 weeks, she moved in. I remember getting home from vacation, going in my room, kids' things everywhere. Someone else's kids' things in my room. I'm thinking, oh, I guess I don't have a room anymore. And I just thought, you know what? I'm not dealing with this. I packed up my things and I left without saying anything, and I went down to my mom's house for the rest of the summer until I went back to college. My younger brother, same thing happened to him. My dad just let another kid inhabit his room. Basically, he's like, yeah, these aren't your rooms anymore. I'm abandoning you, basically. Go live with your mom now. He abandoned us in a way that makes him feel like his hands are wiped clean. But he did abandon us. And I find it really disgusting how a few months before that, we were up late one night and he was talking about how he knows my biggest fear is him abandoning me. I just thought that was really sick to say, because I'm like, why are you even thinking about that? Like, you're weird. And how he has a list of all the people who did him wrong, and years might go by, but one day he'll get everyone back. Like, huh? I don't know if he was trying to joke, but that's not funny. Sick behavior. I remember leaving and he called me and was like, "Hey, where are you?" I was like, "I'm at my mom's house because I saw that someone's kid is living in my room. So I'm just gonna live with my mom until I go back to school. It's no big deal." Because at this moment I thought, yeah, I'm not gonna mess with this. This is his life. If he wants to do it, fine. I'm not going to stick around for it though, cuz I'm an adult. I don't want to be abused again. And so I'm going to head out, but I'm not going to tell him he can't do this. And he couldn't take this. He couldn't take me leaving. He wanted me to stay. And I was like, "I'm sorry, I'm just not going to. I don't like this situation." He's like, "Well, is there anything I can do to make you come back?" I was like, no, because anything I say, you'll probably say that it's like it's my fault you're miserable then. And I'm not gonna deal with that. So just do what you want. I'm not gonna stay though. And so he was like, okay, well, I'll figure something out. I'll call you back. So he called me back and he's like, it seems like the only way this is gonna work is if she doesn't move in. I was like, well, if that's what you want to do, but I'm not going to force you to do anything because I know you're going to blame me for your misery then. And he just didn't care. Like he was very just that's not true, blah blah blah. I was like, it is. So I'm just going to stay here. I don't care. Just go do what you're going to do. I'm going to stay with my mom. And then that whole situation went on to a few calls that ended up in me screaming at him to the point where like my fiance like took the phone from me because he thought like this is very damaging to my health right now, like I shouldn't be doing this with my dad. And it came down October 2019. I was like, okay, I still want a relationship with you. Like I do want this to work, so I'm gonna try one more time. I remember he was supposed to visit me. My dad was supposed to visit me at college. And I called him and he was like, he kept saying we, like when we come over. And I was like, hold on, what do you mean we? He was like, me and insert girlfriend. And I was like, I didn't invite her. I want a relationship with you as my dad. Like, I don't care about having a relationship with her. Like, this is my boundary. You guys can stay together. That's fine. I'm not gonna try breaking you guys up. Do what you want. But me as an adult, I only want to see my dad. You're either gonna respect my boundaries or there's not gonna be a relationship there. And he didn't understand that, so he didn't visit. I went up for fall break. This was my last time trying to just keep a bond with my dad. I went to his house. And I went to his house not to argue at all. I just wanted to go there to see him. I walk inside, the dogs start like jumping on me, which is fine. I'm just like, okay, okay, get down. And my dad just immediately starts yelling at me, like, get in, get in, get in. I immediately started crying. Because my anxiety was really high that day. I immediately started crying. He was like, why are you crying? I could tell that it just wasn't going to be a good time. Him and his girlfriend were in the kitchen, and I heard her say she was gonna go downstairs to go smoke. And so I thought, cool, my dad's gonna come over here, like, we're just gonna have me and him time. Like, that's gonna be great. He was like, I'm going downstairs to smoke. Do you wanna come with? Went downstairs. It immediately turned into an interrogation. She went outside to get some air, which I find very odd that my car literally died right after she went outside to go get some air. He was interrogating me the whole time, like asking me what my problem is with her and like blah blah blah. And he just wasn't understanding. And it came down to her yelling at me. When she yelled at me, I just thought, first of all, my dad is letting her do this. This is going to be exactly how my stepmom treated me, and I'm not gonna deal with this. No, I'm not. I'm an adult. I don't have to deal with it this time. I don't. So when she yelled at me and he didn't do anything, I said, no, no, I'm not doing this. And I left. And that was the last time I ever went to my dad's house. I will say too, there was a time where I tried to make it work with his new girlfriend, and we had a conversation before, and during that conversation, it really opened my eyes up to the type of person she is, and I knew that I didn't want a relationship with her. She immediately told me her one child's sexual assault story without their consent or them around to even say like you can tell this stranger, because at the time I'm a stranger. And I remember after she told me her child's assault story that had nothing to do with her, she goes, so yeah, your life was bad, so is mine. Huh? Like, I didn't even tell her my life, so she's only knowing what my dad's dumbass is telling her. But also, what? This is how I know these people are like actually sick in the head, because I don't know how those words could come out of her mouth without her thinking, yeah, this sounds really fucking weird. I remember also during that time, they went through my room, snooping through my room, grabbing everything that they wanted, like an iPad, shoes, clothes. My dad goes, "Oh, hey, can we have this iPad?" I was like, "No, it's mine. My mom got it for me." He's like, "Oh, I thought I did." I was like, "You would never get me something like that." I was like, "Give it back." He was like, "Oh, can she have your shoes?" I was like, "No, give them back." Like, just leech, 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 leech. So I left and I drove up to my fiance's mom's house at the time. She lived like not far from there. And when I parked, I went back to the car. I started it. My car didn't start. It was dead, which I found really weird. Maybe it's just a coincidence, but I find it so weird. She went outside for air and then my car died. Like, what? I took that as a sign though. When my car died, I thought, okay, usually I go to my dad for my car problems. I feel like the universe is testing me right now to see if I can handle this myself. Because if I call my dad right now over this, it's over. What I just did meant nothing. So I got it fixed myself. I also feel like adding this in too, this is so random, but during my teenage years, because of all of the trauma my stepmom gave me and how I was so desperate for emotional attention, I seeked validation in boys, and it's really unfortunate because that's not who I am at all, at all. And I don't know what my life would be like if that stuff never happened, because if I wasn't abused, I don't know where I'd be right now. And I'm so thankful for my peaceful life that I made for myself right now. So it's okay. I don't believe that I needed to go through abuse to get to where I am today. I will never tell someone that, they needed their abuse to be who they are today. I don't believe in that, but I am really thankful I'm able to have this peaceful home that I have right now, because after my entire life, I didn't have a peaceful home. My home was chaos. My home wasn't filled with love. Now I'm able to have that. I have a relationship that shows me what love is. And I don't have to seek validation anymore. And therapy has helped me so much. And there's so much more that I don't want to get into because a lot of it has to do with someone else's story that I don't want to tell to the world because it's not my story to share. But I feel like after knowing my chaotic life, somewhat, now going forward, when I talk about my favorite Nana characters and when I go into analyses, and one video, I'm gonna go into all the Nana characters and talk about their traits and which ones resonate with me. Now you guys will maybe better understand. This video isn't meant for my abusers, it's meant for people who went through similar things. Unfortunately, my stepmom probably will see this. I know that she'll forever try to control, but I'm here to just remind my abusers that I could never be silenced. I can never be brainwashed and manipulated again. And I will always stand up for myself and for others. And I'm not going to be scared to tell my story. And I have the power now. Abusers can try to change their life around and try to forget the things they did. Church can't save you. Suicide walks can't save you. God can't save you from the things that you did to me and my brother. And sometimes I hope that there's something after this life to punish. But anyway, my damaged life, you can probably tell why I love Nana so much. That's it for this video. I will get into Nana content next time. Let me know what you guys want to see Nana related, if you even made it this far. I'm mainly just doing it for me. I made this whole page for me. If I'm the only one watching it, that's fine. I am so obsessed with Nana. I need an outlet, and this is gonna be my outlet.